skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? And the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day, while the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor. He was telling you to build your own house.
Welcome, live from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Today's guests are Trevor Stevens. Dr. Valentine and Dr. Alani are on their way, they're en route. But I just want to introduce an old friend of mine. We just had a reunion. We're going back to the 50s with my old friends. Most of the people there are 60 and over. I don't find anybody, too many people over 60, under 60. Well, there are a few. But most of our crowd is 60, 65 years old, right?
Yeah, the main crowd.
This young man here looks about, what, 40, whatever?
Well, I played a role recently in an Indian film of maybe 40-ish.
Okay, good, good. Now, what is the secret of coming up in Harlem and surviving all this stuff and managing to survive it, really?
The secret.
With all the trauma that, we normally had.
I don't know if there's a real secret. It's, I think it has a lot to do with a little luck as well, because there were a lot of great guys, innocent of a lot of things, and they got swept away. Like one young man, I liked him very much. His mother used to bring him down to McCready's shop, and he's a little bit younger than we are. A really groovy little catch, and studied well and so forth and so on. And suddenly he was toxicoman, addict. And I saw him later on, and I asked him, how God, could this happen to you, and so forth and so on. And one thing leads to another. You hang out with some people, and they said, try this, do that, and you didn't have the willpower to defend, and so then he wound up stealing and whatever it takes to so I don't secret. I don't know if there's really any.
You don't think there's a secret?
Well, then if there's a secret, you possess it as well.
Well, I think really it was a positive attitude. The upbringing that we have. I think there was a mold there that's been broken. I mean, I don't see that spirit of entrepreneurship, of being out there and doing as many things as you saw the people at the party there. All of us were, really successful in one way or another.
Yeah, I think it was a thing of the times where we were into a zone, I should say, a period where we appreciated a lot of nice things. We were willing to labor for it. We were willing to wait for it, and our parents installed something very positive within us. Not saying that the parents of the younger people did not do so, but it's a mystery as to what happened. Really? Can anyone put their finger on what happened? That sure, you're going to always have people, younger that are going to be better than we are, and so forth. But overall, something happened. Even their style of dressing, their comportement, all of this. I mean, I grew up in Harlem, but I used to walk the street and we knew everybody.
Yeah.
We had good conversations and so forth. Now, when I'm walking in the street, I'm a little bit, you know.
But you spent what? How many? 40 years in Paris.
Yeah, where I still reside. Yeah. But it was one of those things, like when you ran off into the military, and I hear you guys, you and Sally Crook, you guys are in France and all these places. So it was a bit easier for me, to a degree, to detach myself because of what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn languages. I wanted to see something else, and I just sort of, in a sense, for lack of words, got carried away. You know, I just went. 20 years went by, 30 before I said, you know, man, I mean, it's moving. Time is moving along. I was into, because I was switching countries, doing this, and I enjoyed it so much.
I thought you spent most of your time in Paris.
I do.
Okay.
But I used to work a lot in Italy, so I was into learning all these languages, and that was one of the ways I did it. Like, went there to work, so I would spend 6 months out of the year in Italy.
So you speak 5 languages?
Yeah, and bits of pieces of many others.
Okay. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, we look to you as our world traveler, person that, you know, that gets around.
Well, as I told you once before, someone like yourself and many others was something that I admired. You know, the way you guys used to dress, and so I just came on the scene and saw all of this. So all I did was allowed you guys to initiate me, and I had something to run with because of you guys. Yeah. Seriously.
Well, we were dressing like this back then, right?
If you dressed the way you were dressing before, people will never understand you with your spats and cape and top hats. And
that was Vance Amico with the king. I had the Humberg and the spats.
But I recall a cape on you once. I don't know, you know.
Oh, that was a cape coat.
Yeah, a cardigan.
Mulberry.
Yeah, and cardigans, and you know, that was admirable.
I know this is an inside joke here. How we used to, in the 50s, we were preppy, I guess, or English.
Yeah, well, English, and then the Italian.
And you worked at Left Courts.
No, McCready's.
McCready's
and Schreiber's.
That's right.
Yeah, we had some, and you know, that was an experience for me because I met a lot of great people, all the people that we know today.
So you were one of the first blacks working downtown, right?
Yeah, in that shoe store, was only one. Well, I didn't go there as a salesman.
That was 56, 57?
No, a little bit later. A little bit later. Okay. Yeah. But,
Well, no, continue.
Yeah, it was.
Little Roland. Sit over here. All right.
Yeah, Left Courts was a rival shoe store, but they both had clients that were mega stars. You know, I met so many people there, from Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte,
Right.
the Beach Boys, Jim Brown, Vic Damone. I mean, it goes on and on. The Everly Brothers. It just went, and I was like into this modeling thing, so it was perfect setting for me.
Right. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go to the roll-in, the roll-in that we have. And this is the party that we just had last Saturday night. Now, this is a bunch of old folks getting together, haven't been seen each other in some of us 40, 50 years. So this is old folks getting down. And we will be right back at you. All right? The Gilchrist Experience, live from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Right? Notice
scholars are schools of knowledge.
All right.
We have to figure out how can this knowledge leave Dr. Ben's mind and in his works and in his writings and be transmitted to our young people, who are really the people who are going to make the difference. And so we've got to strategize on that. We have to come up with a process on that. That's why I've concluded that we need a Pan-African Institute. And institutionalize it properly and let it become the basis for which many of these things we want to do can be done. Professor Smalls is no longer at the college. He's no longer tied down with the job. This would be a perfect thing for him to get involved in. We can generate enough money so it can become a meaningful.
Welcome back. I guess we didn't get the party. That was Professor Jeffries on another piece. Welcome to the show, Dr. Nalani. Oh my goodness, I'm starting to say Falani again. That's a quote myself. Nalani and Dr. Valentine. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
Today's subject matter is supposed to be very young Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Give us an idea what very young juice is about, Dr. Nalani.
Well, actually, it's a proprietary blend. It's made not only of goji berries, which is the real name for it. The goji berry is also called wolfberry, and it's an extremely high antioxidant, which is, of course, used to help to counteract free radicals in the blood and in the system. This particular blend is particularly effective because it has essential oils, believe it or not, in the juice. And most essential oils are not ingestible, but this particular essential oil is because it's of a therapeutic grade. So it has a blend of wolfberry, which is the most of the juices, is the wolfberry, goji berry. And then it has pomegranate, apricot, raspberry, and blueberry. And added to that are the essential oils lemon and orange. And the orange essential oil is a very high anti-tumoral.
Tumoral, okay.
Yeah, we use it for cancer patients, clients.
Right.
So it's a very powerful, powerful juice.
What about for arthritis?
It's excellent for arthritis.
Well, I have my order form here. I'm going to order some today.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
So
it's good because arthritis, of course, is an inflammatory condition, and it really helps. And it helps to alkaline the blood as well.
And Dr. Valentine, I understand that you were sick, and this elixir cured your ill.
No, we don't say sick in our temple. We say going through a crisis, a balancing crisis.
Okay.
When you say the word sick, it has too many things attached to it. See, when you speak, you're listening. If people forget that you're also speaking to others, you're speaking to yourself. So you don't identify with quote-unquote sickness. You know that any effort by the body to expunge waste or any kinds of impaction or any kind of blockage in the system is an effort of intelligence to right what is wrong within the body. So that's not sick. That's just a correcting method of intelligence. Yeah, I was going through a cleansing. I had started a fast, and I think that the earth went through an enormous shift in energies when that tsunami hit. And a lot of people who are sensitive on that level felt it. My knees went from under me, and when I woke up that next morning, I had 104 temperature, doing an analysis on myself. So I said, okay, it's time for a crisis.
Tell us this. Now, you're saying when this earthquake, and what, 8,000 miles away,
That's right.
occurred.
Yeah, I was not
It
the only one.
affected you.
I was not the only one.
Right.
I was not the only one. Other people who were very sensitive, who are on that frequency, began to feel it as well.
Something to do with the meridians?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The earth, the ley lines.
Yeah, I was affected as well.
Yeah, so I had not known anything about it. Queen has been always on this specific berry young juice, and I'm not a product pusher of any kind, you see. So when I was laid out, and she came over, and Sister has the healing hands of all times, and I've been 30 years in this business, had massages by everyone, and dealt with all types of people who deal in the healing modalities. And Queen has there are certain people who are born to that, and then there are others who are trained to do that. But Queen is born to do that, to use hands in healing. She's a master Reiki technician as well. So when she came over, she brought her berry young juice and her essential oils, which are part of that. And I learned later from Queen that the essential oils were 100%, and there are certain companies who put out essential oils with only 10% of real oils in them, and they are allowed, according to FDA and other specific food standards and certain standards, to say it's 100%. But you can never take it inside of your body. These oils that Sister deals with from the Young Living are 100%, so you could take them internally. Well, needless to say, as I was going through my crisis, and I like to do my crisis by myself, I like to be alone when I'm doing that. Queen came over and began to deal with taking these little shots of the berry young juice. And that's what I was just taking, shots of the berry young juice, and she was doing a technique called the raindrop therapy on my back. And before you knew it, it wasn't any kind of interference, because I don't allow interferences with my healing crisis. I allow the body to do what it has to do. There was no interference. I didn't feel any surge of energy. All I felt was this almost like a parting of the waves. And the temperature stayed, it fluctuated, but I was able to get past it in like 2 or 3 days, which I knew would have taken at least a week or more. But because of what it is she did, and I said, oh, this is what you've been talking about for so long. And so when I found out what the berry young juice was about, when I read up on it, I said, this man, I had remembered I had seen something about it 2 years earlier when a Chinese man did a promo on it in Chinese with English subtitles about the goji berry and how it was found in Tibet near a monastery, where this well had these goji berries dropping into the water, and the people from the town would automatically just take the water from the well, and they had these 90, 99, 110-year-old people carrying bundles of sticks, a 65-year-old pregnant woman. It was incredible, and they was talking about this one little town where this monastery was. So now this goji berry, I found out, is now grown
where?
in Tibet.
Okay.
In Tibet.
Okay.
Now I heard that from Queen that this goji berry is now grown along the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, and it's grown in a place called the Nisha province that has just the right amount of rain, just the right amount of sunshine, and the proper type of soil. So it is the if you could read like the noni berries and noni juice and the what's the other, mango berries, mango tango, whatever, none of them come near to this in the antioxidant power. It's off the chart. And I called my friends in England, in London, and they told me that they've been trying to get the wolf goji berries from the Chinese, and they didn't let anybody have it. It was always for this closed community, and if they had to get it, super expensive. Yeah.
Tell us how the earthquake affected you.
Well, when it happened, I had predicted it in a 2000 at the Gathering of the Masters 2000 in Atlanta, and it was from an earth change map. I forgot the name of the gentleman that had made it, and I said, well, these are the areas you could take a pendulum. I could show people how to do it and spin it around a map of the planet, and you could see where the earth will speak to you in forms of vibrations as to where certain things will start to happen. So in the year 2000, we had the Gathering of the Masters, the resurgence of the Gathering of the Masters that we had done in New York for 7 years. We did it in Atlanta, and during that time, we showed an earth map that is available, and it showed where all the inundations will take place in the United States and around the world. Africa will be split up the middle. United States will be fragmented in all these little many islands. And I spoke about a tsunami hitting the area in India at around this time, and it's on tape for everybody to see.
You forecast this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did it affect you?
Well,
She
it caused,
said-
what happened is when it hit, I was going through a cleansing, so I was already vulnerable.
Okay.
And so when you're purifying, your body now begins to turn all its energies inward to get rid of all the waste. So what happens is you begin to become weaker, because all the energies you would do to run around and all the body says, okay, that's it, I'm going in now to get to the point where I'm going to get rid of your problem. So you have to stop doing any kind of extraneous activity because you get weaker. And it was at that point, boom, I wasn't that weak. I was still functioning. But boom, when the tsunami hit, I didn't have any television on, nothing. I just knew something happened because my knees went weak, boom. And then when they told me again that this tsunami had hit, I turned on and said, did you hear what happened?
So your knees went weak?
Yeah. And then my head just flushed up. And I never felt that before, even when I've been going through cleansing and purification. And then I got calls from other people the same way, that they were feeling the same kind of queasiness in their stomach. They lost their equilibrium. People at their desks, some of my students, they couldn't type anymore. They just had to get themselves together. That had a great effect on the whole planet. Matter of fact, it changed the topography of the whole planet.
Okay.
It moved an island about 110 feet. One of the islands was moved 110 feet.
And some came up, I understand, also.
Yes, there was a rising of some of them,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
The whole plate shifted, went under. And all this was actually a prediction from many of our ancestors spoke about this. The Mayan prophecies, the Olmec Mayan prophecies spoke about the changing of the planet. One of the theories were that at the equinox, the Earth and the Sun are in a proximity that is very, very tenuous, because at the point where the Earth begins to return back to the Sun, there is an enormous pull on the Earth to stay within its ellipsis around the Sun. So at that point, December 24th, that's when the Earth and the Sun are in a tremendous pull with one another. But at that particular time, the Moon was also at its furthest point from the Earth. So two parts of the two forces were pulling on the Earth at the same time at that certain point, and boom, it caused a shift or a change in the rotational shift of the Earth. The Earth is not even in the same area it was spinning in for the last 400 or 500 years since that tsunami.
And what type of people were affected by this? Those of us that are super sensitive, and what is the vibrations of the planet you're picking up?
Actually, for me, I had no idea. I didn't even realize that that's what had happened until the next day when I found out that at this particular time this happened.
Did you feel something?
Oh, absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
time was changed as well. They haven't bothered
Yes.
to change it
On the
physically.
clocks, yes.
On the clocks,
clock.
but the time has been changed.
Oh yeah, we've been shifted. We're going. This is the time when the ancestors said 7 years to the end of time. Now, it's from that point now till 2012.
Yeah, the Mayan calendar.
That was the 7 year beginning of the 7 year cycle towards the end of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to give a prediction here live? Really? See, Dr.
No. What you have to do is to study. See, I did a study on it, and I did my research, and I don't do predictions. All I do is read what it is that Nature Mother and Spirit Father says through the pendulum, because it's a language that they speak through the four elements, the fire, air, water, and earth, which constitutes the W-O-R-D made flesh. So the word is the fire, air, water, and earth, and how all of these forces come together to create what we see as reality.
Amen.
Actually, what happened with me is I was working on a client at the time. I was doing some massage, some medical massage, we call it. And thankfully, the client was lying face down, and I started feeling nauseous and then dizzy. And I said, this is strange. And I said, well, I'll get over it. You know, I continued to work. Eventually, it got so bad that I knew that I needed to do something. I felt like I was going to throw up. And I, as calmly as I could, said to my client, now I need you to be very still, and I'll be right back. And I left the room and threw up violently. Violently.
Yeah.
Did you throw up?
Then I finished when
You didn't feel ill?
I was not ill at all, at all. And I don't get nauseous. I don't throw up for no reason.
Right.
And then finally, I was able to compose myself well enough to wash up, clean up, and quickly get back to my client. And I worked on him and finished. And after he left, I I had to go to bed. I was very weak, and I felt ill.
Yeah.
I didn't feel any pain, but I felt ill
Thrown off.
in the stomach after throwing up.
Yeah.
But it was a violent, I haven't experienced that since childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that I got reports from England, friends of mine in Canada, and some of my students over in Africa and in the West Indies called and told me they had similar experiences. And that nobody has actually spoken about what affects that particular event at 9 on the Richter scale caused around the rest of the planet. But when the planet now shifted and changed its size, it changed its frequency. Just like if you were spinning a top of this size and then started spinning a top of this size, if there was a shift, you would feel it based upon the frequency that the spin itself had generated by its velocity. Well, it's the same thing that happened with the planet Earth. As soon as the tsunami happened, the Earth collapsed at a specific point, changing the frequency, changing the spin dynamic and the wobble, because the Earth has been wobbling
Right.
since. That's why we're going to have this erratic weather. There's going to be snow where there's no snow, and there's going to be rain where there's no rain. And you're going
Started
to start
already.
seeing it
Yeah.
happening already. This is the Hopi prophecy.
In Somalia, I think they were hit as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But you see, the time of the same strain, since the Earth is now, and you have to remember that the Earth and our whole solar system is not in the same place it was 2,465 years ago.
Okay.
So what we are now, we are in a proximity to the central star named Alcyon. We're in a whole other proximity at this point. So now everything has changed, even the way we spin. And where the Earth is lined up to the strongest pull of the sun has changed now. So the year before that, the point where that stress factor between the sun's gravitational pull on the Earth and the moon gravitational pull on the Earth hit a place called Ran in Iran. And this place is one of the oldest cities on the planet. And it had a monumental, I think 7 or 8 point on the Richter scale, destroyed the whole city at that stress point.
When this took place?
Yeah.
Really?
This 2003,
The year before.
the year before,
okay.
on December 24th.
Okay. Okay. It wasn't much said about it at large.
Yeah, it was not a lot told about it. But you know, people who are Earth watchers, people who are you know, kind of the sentinels for the time, kind of clock watchers, cosmic clock watchers. We know that there are certain points, there are certain reference points, and tragic reference points, and the fact that there are whole groups of humans leaving. They've made contracts to leave at certain times.
You might
Go where?
To leave,
Yeah.
to go to the
Make
next
their
plane.
transition.
Well, this
Okay.
To
Okay.
precede the next plane,
My
to
audience-
precede the next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
in the last 3 months, this is my first live show this year, and the first live show in 3 months. And so the last 3 months, I've been running old Valentine tapes, and we must have went through maybe, those of you that watched the program, we must have went through 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And it's timely that we come back now after this and with a review of what's happening, in the last 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Things are changing. Something is happening. If you will forecast this Mayan calendar 2012.
Yeah.
3 years
It's actually
ago.
a void. Yeah, about 3 years ago.
we
Yeah.
talked about
But there's a void. The change is already on its way. But we will reach an area in the cosmos where there's a null point. 2012 will reach us in a point where our references for time, our references for spatial relationships, all of these things will begin to change, because at that point, everything that led to that point will become frozen in time. In other words, what we see as time will stop. Reference points, people may just start dropping dead. You'll see things starting to happen at that point, at 2012. It's going to be subtle for some and monumental for others. Those who are on the frequency and have been preparing for that, those who have come off of certain types of foods, these antioxidants that we're speaking about, which the body is now rusting. See, our body is rusting. That's what happens. Because we have the iron rusts under oxidation. So we need to cleanse the body of any residual, quote-unquote, rust. And this is what this juice does. You see, and this is what we need to start teaching people, that the body has to be able to deal with what we call the shift. You know, we took a derogatory term and we say shift happens, you know, instead of the other word, you see. So what we deal with now is that your body now has to become this temple. So I'm taking it on myself that every time there's a shift in what we call the relationship dynamic of the 4 seasons, when it comes to the shift, to each shift, I'm going to do a cleansing to get myself back to what I used to be like, because I brought myself to a point where you know, this was not me, and now I'm bringing myself back to a point where I know I have to be in order to meet that time.
What do you? I remember we had a program on where we were talking about people leaving the planet.
Yes.
Those people that are serving self rather than service to others.
Yeah, but the serving to others, the people who are serving others are leaving as well.
Oh, they're leaving also.
You remember in your Bible it talks about I leave to prepare a way?
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I go to prepare
So
a way.
it's not just the bad guys.
No. Well, the bad guys are here because this is their time.
Okay.
They're all coming in now. These are the lower force energies, the ones who are service to self. They're in government at this point.
Okay.
And that was what was predicted by the Hopi, that and even your own Kemetic
Hopi
ancestors,
Indian.
yeah. Even the Kemetic ancestors.
Okay.
All of them predicted that in the end of days, adults will be like children, and children will be like adults, and that's what we're seeing today.
That's why. That's how you explain the last 2 elections.
Yeah, exactly. You see, we have someone who has the mentality of a child. You know, we call him Howdy Doody, but you know, he's serving his purpose. You know, because there are no
Goodness.
there is no good or bad at this point. There are those who are just serving the moment.
Okay.
You see, because good and evil is from the one.
So all these tests that we seem to be going on, I in particular, I'm going on some traumatic changes, you know, with my pastor being sick for the last 9 months, and some ups and downs here at the studio, and it's just amazing how I've had to, you know, bite my tongue and just pray hard, and I've gotten angry and really gotten upset with everything, and swore that you know the horns came out. I had to pray hard, and the answer to my prayer was, "You got to love everybody, Winston," and that angered me even more.
That's even
You
harder.
know,
That's
I said,
even
come
harder.
on now. I mean, don't I get some vengeance here? Vengeance mine, saith the Lord. No, you got to love everybody, Winston.
Got to spread the love.
What is this? Is that the answer?
Well, you know, Queen, you
Drink
sound
berry
more like
juice and
Queen.
love everybody.
You and Queen sound more alike.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's a little bit more. This is the one reason why she has the gift of healing that she does, is because she has that temperament. I can't get her to say. I cannot even get her to say a expletive, even when she's angry.
What? Isn't that the secret, though? Isn't
really
that truly
don't
the
know.
secret? The way out of this mess is to love everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As hard as it is.
In hopes that they would pick up on this and
No, you don't hope. You hope you pick up yourself.
No, but I
and
mean,
you
if they
get
pick
out of
up
here.
on it, they
Yeah.
can spread it around a little
You
bit.
become an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, well, that's why I say to you every week, the God in me loves the God in you. Because I don't want to stay around this hell. I want to get out of here. I'm not going to, I don't hate anybody.
No, of
All
course
right?
not.
That's what I've been told by my God. Anyway,
Okay.
the one I talk to.
Well,
So
that's
what
what this is about.
Yeah, it's service to others. That's why I'm here serving you each week, trying to bring you the truth. Right? And that's initially what our reunion was like. It went back to a class of people that, you know, we were raised in the 50s, and I don't see those kind of people around too much anymore. I mean, it's a class or a whole era where we were taught scruples and integrity and love, energy, and you know, respect for one another, and it was great to see at 65 people were still doing the same thing.
Yes.
And loving one another. Like this fella, he's been in Europe 40 years. He comes back and naturally all the girls, oh, there's Trevor.
He says that.
And Trevor's thing was, and all of our things were, we were gentlemen.
Yes.
We were gentlemen. And that's how you got over. In our day, you were a gentleman.
If you were polite, if you know, if you saw an elderly going across the street or something like that, we would jostle each other to figure out who was going to go first and so forth. And if you did not do that, the guys themselves, man, you saw that old lady man, old man, and you did that, and we would get on him or whatever.
Right.
But that doesn't. I don't know,
today.
somehow it's.
We don't have
vanished.
the village mentality anymore.
Yeah.
You see, what's happening is that they have told us that that is not your problem anymore. It's the state's problem.
And the state isn't doing anything.
And the state doesn't do anything. Essentially, the state is essentially there to maintain a controlled chaos so that it could legitimize its existence. So you have to understand how the state works. It makes you believe you need it, that it created you, not you created it. So those who control and those who play with our minds, they play with a perceptual kind of dynamic. It's a magnificent speculation that we live. And we've accepted this speculation.
May I just ask you a question, because you sound to be, very knowledgeable about how do you see the future in all of this? Because I'm completely mesmerized, and it's happening throughout the globe.
Yes.
It isn't just
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You know.
We're building to a crescendo. There is what they call a critical mass that has to be reached, because an energy dynamic has been let loose. One that deals with selfishness, one that deals with the kind of non-empathetic you versus me kind of mentality.
Right.
And this has been building around the globe, and there's no, I have no qualms about saying it where it originated out of Europe. And out of the Vatican, and out of those people who want to have you service them and their God, whatever that is. I serve no man's God. Unless you understand a spiritual understanding of your own self and who you are, then you are dealing with somebody else's speculation of what is. And that speculation is what we've been living, but it is so antithetical to what is natural, to what is really spiritual, that it does not work. And so what they do, they keep trying to fix it so that it works. They keep trying to give you stimulants or certain stimulating activities so that it makes you believe that you're somehow interfacing with God. But God is not something you interface with through some kind of cacophonous madness. God is a stillness. It's a still point that you reach within yourself, and you cannot reach it unless you become still of the cacophony that surrounds you. But they make sure that they keep the cacophony going, which tells you who's in control,
Keep that pressure
which
going.
keeps the pressure on.
But at the same time, very quietly, there are people being educated differently from the way children are in the public school systems. Make no mistake, all of the values that we learned in the 50s and 60s are very much taught, and the ways of reading, the ways of calculating, all of that is still being taught in the boarding schools of the wealthy.
Okay.
They still are very highly and very well educated. It's only where the masses are, and the way they're being educated, miseducated. They're not even being educated, really. They're just being corralled. I don't know what's happening there. And it has everything to do with what's happening at home. Well, we have so many children who are having children, and they don't know how to be parents. And because, as was said, we don't have the village mentality anymore. We don't have grandparents and aunts and uncles as much as we used to, who live right in the same proximity or even with us. So we don't have that, and that's what's causing.
They're putting the old people in homes, whereas before they stayed with us. And in the West Indies we used to say, you're going to live until we sun you. And you just put your mom and your pop in the sun, he bask, bring him back in, and so forth. And he tells you certain things that you live by, always listening
What
to.
part of West Indies?
Jamaica.
Trinidad. So we
Same
have the same family energy. Yes, that's what's missing. We miss the wisdom of the elders.
Yes.
That quiet wisdom that used to come after all of your madness. You get up on the porch and you hear grandma and grandpa start telling you certain things. And you think you don't pay attention when you're young, but you hear it. And you hear it over and over again, and
we
before you
feared
know
them.
it,
We
you
feared
feel
them.
it. Yes, yes.
I feared my grandmother.
Respect.
You know,
too.
But that was universal back in our day.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
kind of.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I would like to, excuse me for saying so, I'd like to give a little bit more to the West Indies, only because it was the same but different. I don't know,
Yeah.
it had, you know, maybe he can share this with me, even though you did have it because of your parents from the South and so forth. But the West Indies for me was very special.
Yeah.
About things of this nature.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. There was a village mentality. It was very close to African energies. I was raised being part Indian, part Native, and you know, and the black at the same time, and it mixed with the Europeans. So I got everyone. There were Chinese. I didn't know what racism was
Nor I.
down there until I came here.
You know, out of many come one people. You know.
Yes,
that? So
exactly.
I grew up with this.
Yeah.
My cousin was half Syrian. My grandmother raised this other chap named Sabu, was Indian.
yeah.
And so we just moved like that, you know.
Right,
It
and that's the
doesn't-
same. And the African man, an Obia man, who trained me was when I was little was an Indian boy from India and myself, and I was mixed with all this, and you never knew who was not who. You know, you had little names for each other based on certain peculiarities, but you never knew about racism where I lived. I lived by the shore, and so. There was a whole other mentality until I came here,
Yeah, when I
and
came
then they
here, I
began
was
to
like,
identify me.
yeah.
You're this.
Yes. And I mean, we had there were white Jamaicans,
Yeah.
Indian Jamaicans, Syrian,
Yeah.
and so forth and so on. And I never felt
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that you could feel maybe it was finance if someone was a little bit more,
Right.
you know.
But
But
even
it didn't
then,
matter
it
then
didn't,
still.
because we would find
And
anything.
ate the same thing.
Yes,
and, you know.
yes. I mean, after it rained, that was the big time for toys because you used to fashion the little boats to just float them on the water. as they were floating
Now
out.
what they do, they have all these toys that
Yes.
they break, you throw them away. We had to make our
That's
things,
it.
you know.
You see, that's what focused the children. Your imagination had to take over. You had to become creative.
What about these
with your
skateboards that
toys.
they have now? Do you remember the ball bearings?
We used to get the ball bearings
from the
from the carriages and, from the
just
skates, clip them
chuck
on, stuck them on, and we
a
we
piece
were
of
good to
rubber,
go.
piece of rubber on the back.
Yes.
Stop it,
Stop it,
steer it. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And then now they're doing this.
We would take a big box.
But when you came to the States, how was it when you got here? We were doing linoleum guns, and we had our little box
Well, you're talking about the
cars.
carpet guns. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and all that stuff.
Well, you know, but
creative.
you know that was again. It was almost at a nexus. That was at a point at a nexus when everything began to shift.
Okay.
You see, out of
The
the
50s.
50s, yeah.
Out of the
The children of the 50s was some. Nobody talks about the children of the 50s.
Well, that's
You know, that's
right.
that's the place where they began doing a lot of the food experimentation as well. This is the time when they found out that
okay.
the gypsum in the soy was dangerous to people's endocrine system, and that it caused anomalies in the males where it began to shrink the gonads.
Oh wow.
They knew that.
Okay.
And that was the time, is back in the 1950s, 53 precisely, that they started putting all the soy derivatives into the food and putting it into the food chain.
What's the effect? What's the effect of your shrinking gonads?
Well, essentially you become, you know,
Like
Impudent?
slightly.
impotence.
Yeah.
Not only that, with the extra estrogen, that what they called the phytoestrogens that were in that, it began to cause the women who were the 50s babies, that was the people who began seeing all of the breast cancers in the 90s.
Okay.
That's when the breast cancers were shooting up 110% from the late 80s into throughout the 90s. Those were all from the children of the 50s, especially the women from the 50s. Late 40s going into the 50s, all through the 50s. And so that whole thing, that from that 50s on, that's when they started experimentation on the population. Which is why it is so important at this time for us to start getting the organic materials necessary for us to have some kind of balance. And this is why this berry young juice and the young living products at this point is so essential, because this person who went and got that material, the man named Mr. Young,
Okay.
he went and studied the ancient Kemetic
Oh,
Egyptians.
fantastic.
And these oils are what they use to embalm.
Aha.
And he has no qualms about it, which is why I like him. He says that's where it came from. He's not taking any credit other than what is due.
Right.
So until we, as black people, began to make our own stuff, it seems that, you know, that's the problem I have with you Christians. You deny your ancestry in a point where you say that you're not Egyptians.
Wait a minute.
You were the Kemites.
Sorry, attack. Did you see that?
No, I don't think it was a
I
direct
want my
attack.
public to start calling now.
No.
He's asking me.
He knows what I'm
asking
talking
me
about.
that.
We have this friendly, ongoing thing between
He always
Moses.
asks me, does he believe in God?
No, he and I got this running thing with Moses going on. But the ancient Kemites, where they said that the so-called Hebrews had stayed for 60 years, they had to come out as Kemites, or at least as Kemites by proxy, because they studied everything that they learned. When they entered, quote unquote, Egypt, they only had war songs. That's all they had, because they were Bedouins, they were shepherds. All they had was war songs. When they left, they had a whole science with them.
We're talking about the Greeks?
No, we're talking about the so-called Hebrews,
The Semites.
which were actually the Semites, which were actually the Eus, I-U. That's where you get the word Jew from, or the derivative of the word Jew.
What
It
year
was
are
a
we
tribe
talking?
named Eu.
What year?
Oh Lord, what year did you put your Bible? Because
No,
the Bible doesn't even have a
Just
history.
give me a reference
The Bible
point
dropped out of the sky.
so I can put it together.
We're talking in the BCs.
Right, I know
Yeah,
that.
we're talking in the BCs.
I'm
We're
not so
talking about
comfortable
the
with
one.
BC and AD.
Yeah.
So because who for me, who
Before
says
Moses?
that
Or
No,
Exactly.
it's called
this
before the
whole world
confusion.
began?
BC is before the confusion, and then
this is the
AD
world.
is after the delusion.
well, here, give us a little brief idea how you study religion. Now you have to understand his background. When you raised in the West Indies.
Well, I was a Catholic. I think
All
everybody
right.
we all grew
I
up
used to go
Catholic.
to the Domino Seculo Seculo.
Yes,
like
you know,
threw
yeah,
that out.
Yes. After I got out of grammar school, I went to Catholic high school, by the way.
Okay.
But anyway,
They really tried to ruin you.
they ruined me. They ruined. But you know what?
They
The
ruined
only
you.
thing
I
they
was raised a Baptist. I'm
They
still a
gave us
Baptist.
one hell of an education, though.
Ah.
It's that or pain. So you had to learn the European history. So the one thing that I know Catholic school, people who come out of that hypnotism, you come out with at least a working knowledge of the English language
Okay.
and your math skills. They made sure they taught you specific fundamentals that they do not teach you in what I call the education system today. Because there is no real learning going on. There is only programming and indoctrinations for you to fit a specific section of society, which is why the black and so-called Latino peoples are being given a certain type of education that essentially minimizes their chances to actually advance beyond certain thresholds of activity in this society.
I guess that's why we show such a genuine appreciation for our day when we were coming up, because public school was really a treat back in those days.
Well, we were able to sit still and learn.
Yeah.
Our children today cannot sit still, and it's not their
We had
fault.
plenty of sugar back then.
Yes, we did, but we didn't have the PCBs. We didn't have as much. Even though we did have sugar, we also had some nutritious foods to go along with it. We ate fruits, we ate vegetables, and we were not allowed to eat candy
And
all
you
the
ate
time.
at home.
And you ate at home. You didn't have soda all the time. It was a treat. Once in a while, you could have a little something
And
sweet.
we were not obese.
That's right.
Right, right,
Yeah, and we went to bed at a specific time.
right.
Either that or it's licks. You were regimented. You had a way of thinking. They set you to a clock. You had a particular. But today, they opened up the clock. There is no. We have overridden what is known as our circadian rhythm. That rhythm that tells us when to shut down. In the West Indies, I know between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you did nothing. You either slept or you chilled out or you did the minimum in the shade.
Yeah.
People slept
That
and
was
chilled.
because of the sun, though.
Yeah,
Right.
really. But I'm saying what you did was recharge at that
Okay.
point. You didn't exhaust yourself because working through that particular time exhausted your body. But when the sun went down, you went in and went to bed. When the sun came up, that's
You
when
got
you
up.
woke up. So
Wake
your
up with
body
the
was in
cock.
tune.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So that's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, if you go to bed early enough, even now when I go to the West Indies, I'm in bed
Yeah.
before 9 or 9.
9,
And
10.
by the time you sleep and 4, you get
Yeah.
up,
4 or
you
5,
still see the
yes.
stars and you see the day
Yes,
coming.
just
you
breaking. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Hey.
Nothing like it.
Hey.
The wishing hours, 4 to 6.
Yeah, I was just going to say that on top of that, we have the televisions We have the video games. All of these things. The poor children can't sit still as it is, and these electronic toys do damage, along with the lack of nutrition.
Excuse me, do you realize that one day this young man had fired upon schoolmates and so forth and so on, and he never really handled a weapon.
Right.
But he was able to do that because of the video game.
Right.
His marksmanship was excellent.
Yeah.
They stated that.
Oh yeah,
Because of the video game.
Well, the video games that they put into that community, it was later found out, were the video games that they trained special forces on.
Yeah, right.
There it is.
So why would they do that put that in a children's community unless they were starting some mischief in there purposefully?
What do you think about this Brian Nichols thing
Well,
in Atlanta?
you mean in Atlanta?
Yes.
Well, I don't really look at the distractions that they give me. Anything that they place as important on the television or the boob tube are essentially to keep boobs'
No, I'm
attention.
talking about a brother that's supposedly stable, and he had a good job.
Who is this? The man who shot the judge?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, that was a special forces job. The man was what he called an MK Ultra candidate. He was the classic mind-controlled agent, operative. Imagine now, he did what he did. Let's just round off his final hours before he was caught. What did he do? He did what he did with calm resolve. He left the building where he shot the
Judge and
not the officer, just as he went to the next floor very quietly, went up to the judge and shot him, and then went out, didn't run, wasn't panicking, went over and commandeered what do you call it, 2, 3, or 4 what do you call it?
Hostages?
Hostages and whatever it is. Then he goes and he shoots a agent,
that was
customs
after the
agent.
last. That was
The last person. Now, these were calculated hits. And then what does he do? He goes into a house and starts making pancakes?
No, well, the girl talked him out.
Well, no.
You have to, no, that's...
You have to understand. Wait. You have to
well,
understand.
you have to watch
tried
the
to eat
story.
anyway.
Yeah.
He
But
tried to
no. When you are on the run, you don't find yourself in the same place, giving the gun to the person, being talked out of it.
No, she was sent to him by God.
No. First and
Wait a minute,
foremost,
you
let's
didn't
get
hear-
out of that. No.
I knew that
No,
would
you
hit
need
you
to
like
stop.
that. I'm
know,
telling you.
I'm
Keep it
here
real.
right
I'm
now.
telling you.
Keep
I'm
it
telling you.
real.
This is
First
what
of all,
happened.
let's get out of here with the keep
The
it going.
Gilchrist experience.
No, she
Keep it real.
she is what you call his handler. It's the same thing that you saw with the sniper in Washington, D.C. He was, they said, over the airwaves, he was an expert marksman.
Sure.
But then when you went to look for his military records, he wasn't trained as a marksman. Who trained him? Okay? How is it that they found him sleeping in the car with the weapons and so forth? Because his handler, you have to remember that they're handlers. His hit, remember, I don't know if you ever saw a movie called The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal. Now, I'm not saying go look at the movie, but check what the scenario was. He was hiding his hits inside of a serial killer scenario. So what you watched out for was the FBI agent that got killed who was actually investigating the government for some, I don't remember what the exact improprieties that the government were conducting with. I think it was the IRS or one of the government agencies. She just happens to be in the line of fire and gets killed. And right after that, that's when everything pretty much stopped. I think it was one more just to kind of flavor it out. But you have to watch the way this Operation Northwoods scenario is being played out, because this was done back in the 60s, early 70s, where the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States government said, how do we get the American people on our side against Cuba? Well, what do? The Joint Chiefs of Staff had put out a communique stating that we in the military will start killing American people. We will start crashing planes, and we'll start sniping and shooting American people and blame it on the Cubans. This is documented in your government's dossiers as Operation Northwoods.
Okay.
So you're watching a kind of a residual scenario of Operation Northwoods, because now you have to remember that the Patriot Act and the Homeland Security are now coming up for renewal.
Already?
And you have to know that now, during this time, there has to be a reason for the Homeland Security to exist, and it has to have, the Patriot Act has to exist. So now you're going to start seeing all kinds of fermentation. What about this man who walks into a church and kills 7 people and then shoots himself in the head?
That's crazy.
Perfect mind control scenario. And this is the kind of thing that you're going to watch happen.
Programmed to do that?
Oh, you can be programmed to do that.
yeah.
It's called creating an altar. In other words, they get children, to do, from the time they're children. There's a movie that was out called Soldier. See that movie Soldier in the beginning, and what they were showing you was MK Ultra and what is known as monarch mind control techniques, where they take the child, traumatize the child for about 2 to 3 years until the child creates altered states of mind. And each one of these alters can be programmed to be different in a character, and one alter would not know that the other alter exists in its head. So that particular man, the man that went over to this what is the Caucasian woman, who she said she just happily walks out and then calls the police to bring them in.
How did that happen?
That's because she was his handler. And the handler just has to say a few words to him, and it'll shut him down.
So what you're saying that he was programmed to do what he did?
Yes. Exactly.
And then he automatically went to her.
Yes, because that was what he had to do. And his last hit was this customs agent.
Well,
yeah, I know, it's like, oh, okay,
No,
this is
as
scenario.
usual, Dr. Valentine has this in interesting situation. Back to Queen.
And
No, the
Now,
time
I
is
want
time.
you, there's going to be a number up there. You contact me and I'll make sure that you get some of this very young juice. And Dr. Nalani is quite adept at making us healthy.
I think you should put Dr. Nalani's number up so that those who wish to know
Well,
more
let them
about
call
the
me and I'll
juice.
make sure that they get her number.
Okay, well, tell them to go, and I'll put the website. Go to www.youngliving.
Can't do that.
You can't do that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you just go up and just check out the website.
I'll just come to me and I'll make sure you get all that information.
All right, come to him. That's Moses.
You make sure you have my number up there, please. You know me. I'm the Gilchrist expert. The God in me and loves the God in you. Thank you for coming.
From this size on down, and even in their young age, they understand. I think they would rather have a father or brother or whatever the situation may be who will take a stand in the face of any kind of reaction from narrow-minded people rather than to compromise and later on have to grow up in shame and in disgrace. So I just ask you to excuse my appearance. I don't normally come out in front of people without a shirt and a tie. I guess that's somewhat a holdover from the Black Muslim movement, which I was in, and that's one of the good aspects of that movement. It teaches you to be very careful and conscious of how you look, which is a positive contribution on their part. But that positive contribution on their part is greatly offset by too many other liabilities. Before I get involved in anything nowadays, I have to straighten out my own position, and which is clear, I am not a racist in any form whatsoever. I don't believe